Welcome everyone to my YouTube channel and my IGTV and my podcast. Yeah, I've got all three of you with me live. Now, we are going to be talking today about flipping versus holding. To flip or not to flip? That is but the question. Said Shakespeare saying. Now, there's such staunch arguments for either side, right? For flipping or for holding. Oh, if you flip, then you do all that work and you just get rid of the asset and you got no capital appreciation and this and that. But if you hold it, then you got tenants and I hate tenants. There's so much on either side of it. I want to present you with a balanced view because I have a portfolio, £1 million portfolio plus. Everyone wants to say that. But I also have flipped 3 out of the 15 I purchased, right? And I'm also flipping one right now. I'm a lot closer to home actually in Cambridgeshire, but I live in Hertfordshire. Hertfordshire, darling. So I want to talk about my own experiences with it, but also the kind of pros and cons from a kind of balanced point of view, because I've done both, I'm doing both, and I may continue to do both in some extent. However, I'm not fully sure on that just yet. So, holding properties. Now look, you get capital appreciation, which, especially in places like London, is not to be underestimated. Like seriously, it is big. And you can make a lot of money, just by sitting on your ass. Capital appreciation is really, really important, especially in 5, 6, 10 years when you might look at the property and say, wow, it's increased by say 20%. Well, now my loan to value is a lot lower. I can keep bringing that down and we can keep it down and we can lower our debt. Or you could even remortgage it and pull out more money for whatever reason you might have. So having that equity that just sits there and grows in value over time is pretty powerful. It's something you don't really think about, especially maybe when you're younger and as you're starting out, you just think, cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. But that's the second thing. Holding property should give you cash flow. Now I speak to a lot of people, old school maybe, who say, I put on repayments, so I'm sort of breaking even every month, or it's making like me £100 every month, and I'm not retiring anytime soon. And that's not a bad thing. Because I speak to a lot of people like that who say, Tej, I love my day job. I've got like mentees like this who are like, look, I love my day job. I don't really need it to kind of, be bringing in huge amounts of cash flow. At the same time, it can be more cost efficient to pay the capital down in chunks every time you remortgage, every time your fix runs out. However, I understand that kind of stability that comes from, paying it down every month on a capital mortgage. For me, a property, especially at this stage in my life, remember everyone's different. You're in a different stage. You don't need what I need and I don't need what you need. Well, it might be if you're in the same stage. A property cash flow and generating £300-400 a month, times that by 10, 20, 30, that's everything covered. Everything. And then some. I can even chuck some money in Bitcoin if I want to, which I have. So when I look at it that way, holding an asset, you're getting this long-term appreciation piece, which in some cities can be so powerful. Second thing is you're getting monthly cash flow. What is not to like it? Okay, if you're holding HMOs, yes, you're going to get fat cash flow. £900-800 a month, 1,000, more. You're doing buy-to-lets, depending on where they are, anywhere from 250 to sort of 550, maybe a little bit more in certain areas. Especially at that buy-to-let level when you look north, right, like most people do, you're making 250, 300 quid a pop. Like I said before, times that by X number, you've got a good sort of salary, but then timesing it by X number is not that easy, right? Actually buying that many properties is not freaking easy. So for me to say, you got times by X, yeah, you can, but actually doing that is nowhere near as easy as, I bought one, so let's buy 9 more. It don't work like that. So you have to think to yourself, well, if I'm holding all these assets, to make a 40 grand a year income, I need, 10, 11 of these. A lot of conveyancing, a lot of refurbs, a lot of builders, a lot of bullshit. Alternatively, you could do one flip and make 40 grand in under 6 months. I'm teasing you with the flip stuff. Look at that. Just teasing, just dropping it in there. So, the cash flow is a pro and a con of holding a property, right? I suppose when we get to negatives of it, tenants, they're humans, and what do humans generally cause? Problems or amazing things. What do tenants generally cause? a mixture. Touch wood, I have really good tenants, and they've been great and really good letting agent, and everything's been pretty smooth, right? But I know how easily that can change, and I know how uncontrollable humans are. I know how overprotected tenants are by this pathetic system and this pathetic government, etc., etc. So I know we're on the cusp, we're on the edge of them not paying rent. Okay, I know how, we can put CCJs on them, we can do all this stuff, but some people are just reckless. And because of that, you look at the stability of the portfolio as an asset, as an income generating piece, and you kind of think, yeah, it's there and it's working when it works, but when that goes wrong, you could be 6, 9, 10 months without rent because of this pathetic, system and the courts and this legal system. That is a big risk to have. And what if you have 4 of them, right? And that's 1,000, and you lose 1 or 2 of them. Your bills need to get paid. British Gas aren't saying, oh, they're not paying rent today, number 57. You know what? Don't worry about it. We'll give you 6 months. We'll pay us then. Your mortgage company is certainly ain't saying that. So what happens then? The risk element can be higher on, on kind of buy-to-lets. Another thing is, when you drill down to it, talking limited company here, it applies in your personal name even more. Post-tax, especially if you're not sort of smart with it, post-tax, boiler breaks, this happens, that 250, 350 a month can become a very small number, So there's a problem there, right? Like, what are you going to do? That, you really have to work out how much you're going to take home in your pocket from these buy-to-lets before you get into it. Because chances are you're looking at the end of it and then, yeah. And of course you've got costs with running a company, like accountants' costs, right? Your confirmation statement, I think it was like 13 quid or something like that, but you have costs, corporation tax, that you gotta pay. As much as we don't want to, you gotta pay them. So just think about that, when you're thinking about buy-to-lets. What's the real cost of this? And what does it really equate down to? Bottom line, the line right at the bottom, what does that equate to? And then see if it's worth it and see how many you need. Let's talk about flips. I like flips, right? I know people say, well, Ted, you put all this work in, you're doing the hardest thing dealing with builders, and you're just selling it. What's the point of that? Well, I get it. I do. I promise you I get it. But when I look at the latest flip I'm doing, which should make 40 to, well, if it sells for what the agent thinks, 40 to 70 grand profit. My portfolio would take 1 or 2 years to make that, roughly. And that's fine. But if I didn't have a portfolio and I was starting out and I could make 40 to 80 grand on my first project, whereas my first buy-to-let project would give me 300 quid a month and it would take 6 months to get there, whereas a flip could be done and sold in 6 months, everything, if you have the right education, if you know what you're doing, and the right people supporting you, trust me, it's a lot harder than you think. Unless you've done it, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, if I compare the two of those, your first deal to make, say, 40 grand, which is not, depending on where you live and where you invest, it's not that unrealistic. Even say you make 20 grand, it's going to take you a long time to make that in buy-to-let land. It is, it's a fact. And you're trying to quit your job, you're trying to do this, trying to do that. Well, what about if you did a flip for the first one, first or second one, right? You got your limited cash pot, you did a flip, you double your cash pot, with, you add 20, 30, 40 grand to it, let's just stick with 40 grand. Are you telling me that you couldn't quit your job, take out 15 grand of that 40, and say, right, here's my savings for the next year. Tej, you got a year, ready, steady, cook. I miss that show, I miss Ainsley, I miss Ainsley. And where is Ainsley? Honestly, bring back Ainsley, because TV gold. Also, he hasn't aged. He literally looks younger than, it's mad like for all. So, you've got a year, you've got the 15k, go get at it. That's a lot quicker and better than, it's month 8 and I've got 2 buy-to-lets generating 300 quid each. You know what I mean? At the same time, if you're smart with it, 10 grand of that 15, because you don't need that until 3 or 4 months in, could be in a stocks and shares ISA, could be in whatever, going against inflation, pull it back out and then carry, you know what I mean? There's so many smart ways. The main thing I say to myself is, what else could I be doing to make the same return, or better, or slightly worse, but what else could I be doing right now? Right? For the same amount of work, what else could I be doing? I'd love to implore you to all ask yourself this question when you look at deals. So one of my mentees came to me, oh, I'm looking at an 8% return on a flip. Should I just do it to get my first one? I was like, bruv, you read my book, you done my e-learning, and you're asking this question. No, I mean, I said that, but I also said to him, look, your desires and experience and want and ambition and is different to mine. Would I get out of bed for 8%? No. But then again, if it was 8% and 8% happened to be like £1 million, I think it can change sometimes, right? Like, I think my ears are perking up then, like a ferret when you hear food. You know, so it is subjective, and it is very personal. Now, that's why I suppose flips can be better, because with a, you know, BRR, for example, you're getting 75% of the end value. On a flip, you're getting 100, and you can sometimes sell it for more than it values for. Most of the time, I've had that actually. You know, so it's kind of more forgiving. If you mess up, well, okay, you've got 25% leeway in a sense. At the same time, it's less forgiving because on a rental, people aren't going to complain about things. Value is not going to look at the finish as such. But when you sell it, of course they're going to look at the finish, and little things put people off, which is why you see my latest flip, I put bloody planters in. I have gone to town on this house, yeah? To town. Because I don't want them to say anything. I want them to say, this is beautiful. I want them to say, this is stunning. Who built this? Who built this? That's what I want from them. And hopefully that's what I'm going to get from them. But obviously I've done 16 refurbs. I've learned, you know, what to do and what not to do. I'm always learning. You know, with flipping a property, like I said, you've got more risk with people not liking it, with the market shifting. You've got less risk with, you know, it being 100% instead of 75% versus holding it. You've got no tenants to manage. You've got chunks of cash coming in. If you have a pipeline, you know, you could be selling a flip every few months. You know, because once it's in the selling sort of stage and conveying, you know, the refurb is the most hands-on. If you have a project manager, who you learn how to do refurbs properly, you don't look at my e-learning, then, you know, your pipeline could be ding, 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 ka-ching, right? So honestly, and I say this to a lot of people starting out, consider flips. I get buy-to-lets, I get, you know, why we do them and why I have them, and, you know, but flips be such a good way to really multiply your starting funds, kind of maybe jump in at a bit of a deeper end in terms of the refurb quality, but also get working with various key people and understanding the wants and desires of people, what the local market's like, and maybe even creating a comparable for yourself. When it comes to revalue your buy-to-lets later, you say, hello, this sold for this much, and I know because I sold it. You know, I get, you know, chunks of cash, they're not passive, there's no capital appreciation, so you get 40 grand today, it's 40 grand today, minus 2% a year on inflation, is now in your hands to make that shit grow. Whereas in a property, you know, it's growing naturally, and as it will. So, you know, those are my thoughts on flipping versus holding. I hope I presented a balanced view for you. You know, any of your thoughts, please leave it in the comments below. You know, send me a DM on Instagram, send me an email. I'd love to hear your thoughts, love to hear your ideas, but those are my two views. I prefer flipping. I say that with the privilege, I suppose, or being fortunate enough that I built this portfolio, a lot of hard work. But I also kind of prefer trading on top of it all, which is when you get it, add value, sell it on. No refurb, no builders. So yeah, those are my thoughts on flipping versus holding. I hope that's been useful. Please do leave a comment below, and do not forget to subscribe, like, and go buy my new books. I think you'll like